Good evening, everyone. My name is Niharika Joshi, and I'm a student of the NorthCap University and the editorial lead for IEEE TEMS. I welcome you to the third day of Illuminate, a platform for budding entrepreneurs organized by the IEEE Technology and Engineering Management Society, student chapter of the NorthCap University, in collaboration with IEEE CEA and IIC. Now, I would like to welcome our speaker, Mr. Sumit Kumar, who has completed his Bachelor of Engineering in Computer Science from Chhattisgarh Swami Vivekanand Technical University and further completed his MTech from Lovely Professional University. He has done his postgraduate diploma in software development from International Institute of Information Technology, Bangalore. He is pursuing PhD in the field of malware analysis while dealing with the privacy and security aspect of mobile ecosystem. He has worked as a faculty in the IT domain and specialized in cybersecurity. He works as a professor in the NorthCap University and has many achievements. Now, I would like to hand over the stage to Sumit sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Niharika. It was indeed a very nice introduction. Let me quickly share my screen first. And please let me know if I'm audible to you and my screen is also visible to you or not. Can you see my screen, guys?
Yes, sir.
All right. Fine. So firstly, thank you IEEE NCU for inviting me to this talk. And I would like to begin with this note that our generation is very fortunate who have seen this development of internet from just a fad to people's primary income source now. And yes, it is true. Being a full-time YouTuber can actually pay you more than some traditional income sources, right? Which has been known till now to us. So it is needless to say that the technology that we are surrounded with is essentially shaping up our future, and the future is tech driven. And in fact, the biggest example that I'd like to point out here is the COVID-19 vaccination drive that is happening in our country right now. Our country is one among the few who has been able to successfully vaccinate almost 50% of the population. So now to suffice this growing need of an online presence and to serve million of the users who are just making their first click on the internet, something needs to be done. And development of this something, which means could be an application, it could be a mobile application, a service, an online web service, something like that. It lies in the hands of a person called developer or a software engineer. So everything that we interact with electronically daily is nothing but thousands of lines of code written by some developer sitting in some company, right? So now to traditionally the developers who focus on just the developing some web-based or mobile application services usually either tend to stick with developing the front end of the application, which is often called as client side, or maybe the back end or the server side of that application. And the main job of those front end developer is to create a niche user experience for the end user. Similarly, the back end developer ensures that the front end we see as a user is precise and how it works. The backend logic should be correct, right? But a full stack, as the name might suggest, is someone who is adept at managing both the client side as well as the back side of an application. Okay, so what is full stack development? Well, it is commonly considered as development of both the front end as well as the back end portion. The application could be a mobile application or a web-based application. So it is a blend of both creativity as well as logic. And obviously, none of your ideas or thoughts that might come up in your mind make sense unless you make something out of it. You build some application out of it, right? Now the question comes: why do we need full stack development? Well, there are a couple of reasons to do that. Obviously, the market need. Another one is the professional versatility, because a full stack developer, you can say, is a jack of all trade. He boasts wide variety of skills ranging from all the technologies in the front end to all the way to all the technologies that are related to back end development, and a complete understanding of how the software development life cycle works is a plus point for any software engineer out there. Okay, now the if the what and why is clear of this topic, what is full stack development, why it is needed, the next obvious question is, okay, how can I become a full stack developer? What should be the skills that I require to become a full stack developer? So first thing is you need to focus on front end development. As I said, any application that you build is categorized in, or it is made up of some components like front end part, back end part. There would be a database, there would be a system architecture, and something and things which basically you can which help you out in further deployment and all other things. Okay, so what about what is front end? Well, front end is a part of the application that users can see, where they can interact with the application using niche and elegant UI, and they can navigate through menus, they can see the text which is written, hyperlinks that are given over there, images, video, and so on. So for example, if you go to any website like Amazon.com, you will see their homepage, and you can open up the menus. You can maybe scroll over through different products that are highlighted over their homepage. So how this is all is being done? This is being done with the help of your front end technologies, and the guy who did that is often called as front end developer. So here the main aim of front-end development part is to create an interactive and intuitive as well as engaging front-end applications. The more elegant UI you provide, the more user experience would be rich in that terms. Right? You might have seen, I like to point this website called IRCTC, which is Indian Railway Booking System. If you have seen their older website, it was a kind of a shabby looking website where, and its UI is also very clumsy. But if you look at the newer version of IRCTC nowadays, it is a lot better than that. So why it is being done? Just to enhance the user experience, so that more and more users would come to their website now and book the railway ticket from there rather than going to any third-party application, right? Okay, now the question comes, the front end is clear, why front end is needed, what is actually front end in terms of an application development. What are the different frameworks that I need to learn, or the libraries that are there to create this elegant and intuitive UI? Well, to begin with, I have highlighted three topmost front-end frameworks in the market that are very popular right now. First one is Angular. Angular is developed and being maintained by Google now. It is widely popular as well as a reliable front-end framework for enterprise or for business level application, business critical application, so to say. The another front-end framework, very popular among startups and among some giant companies as well, is React. React is developed and maintained by Facebook community. React is fast, it is scalable, and it is very easy to use. It is actually not a framework, it is a library, a JavaScript library. And it is being widely used in building the user interface of web as well as mobile application through its React native framework. The third one, or the last one is that I have highlighted here, is Vue.js, which is again a lightweight front-end framework which is used for creating single-page applications. And it is relatively new when compared with Angular and React. It is open source and being maintained by by a community, a developers community there. Okay, and nowadays it is gaining some momentum, some popularity. So these are the top three front-end frameworks that you can learn. Now the next thing comes, backend part of an application. So front end is done. What is backend now? Well, backend is the server side development. It is a part of the application that users actually cannot see. They cannot directly interact with it, but they can interact with it through the UI. So let's say as a user, you logged into your mail account, or maybe you logged into flipkart.com and you want to purchase something. So the first thing that Flipkart asks you is to log in yourself, so that it can identify that, okay, you are a regular user or a returning user. So what do? You just type in your username and maybe your password, and then it will verify it through a backend service that, okay, this user is identified, this is the profile, and maybe some order records, some history records, or maybe your wish list kind of things would be populated on their homepage. And similar kind of products are being suggested. So how all of this thing is done? This is done through backend. The main aim in backend development is to create services that that process business logic, right? So when you see similar kind of products that you have purchased before, what is being done actually? This is the business logic that is being executed, and it is shown to you through front end. And the main thing that you need to take care of as a backend developer is access to the critical resources that are being provided, the databases, the file servers, the cloud services, and many more. And the main focus on backend side of an application is to optimize the code to make the application faster and the efficiency. Efficiency is one of the most critical point that you need to take care of as a backend developer, because we have limited resources. We need to utilize those resources to its maximum limit, right? Again, the next thing comes backend. What is backend is clear. Now, what are the backend frameworks that I can learn? Well, I have highlighted some of the backend frameworks over here, which are very popular in the market right now. The first one is Express.js. Express.js is a fast and minimalist backend framework for developing web as well as mobile applications. It is often called as de facto standard server for Node.js. Node.js is a runtime environment for JavaScript, so it actually gives you the ability to run JavaScript at the server side. Another such backend framework is Django. Django is again Python-based leading open source framework. It is considered as fast, secure, and scalable. With Django, you can actually develop a front end as well as a backend application rapidly. The third one is Spring Framework. Spring is again an open source application framework that utilizes Java's inversion of control principle. Inversion of control or single responsibility principle is what Java provides you, and these Java frameworks like Spring or Spring Boot utilizes it to its maximum. It is widely being used for its MVC capability. MVC stands for Model, View, and Controller, where model is the part of code which directly interacts with the database. View, as the name suggests, is the part which gives you the UI, the user interface, which the user can see. And controller acts as a bridge between this model and the view part. Spring framework is considered as highly secure, robust, and scalable. And it is often being used in some very large business critical applications like your banking applications, where a lot of transactions are going on, thousands, even millions of transactions are going on in 1 second in a country like India. Another backend framework is Ruby on Rails. Ruby on Rails was among the very popular backend framework in the last decade. So it is a server-side web application framework that offers default web page structure and web services. This framework is built on Ruby, a programming language, and it is also considered as one of the best framework for web application development. You know, your GitHub's main code is actually built using this Ruby on Rails framework. The another backend framework that I have mentioned over here is Laravel. Laravel is fairly new open source PHP web framework for developing web-based applications that also follows model view controller MVC architecture of any project, just like Spring. Now, there are many more such backend frameworks that are available in the market, and these are some of the popular ones that are being used. You can pick up any of these frameworks that you feel comfortable with. Of course, on the basis of the programming language of your choice. If you are good with Java, you can you can go ahead with Spring framework. If you are good with Python, which I suppose is among the very popular or maybe the most popular language in the last couple of years, you can obviously learn Django. There is one more small micro application framework called Flask, which also is getting popularity nowadays. And if you are well versed with JavaScript, which will definitely help you in developing front end application, because Java is often known as the mother of front end development. So Express.js is good to go then. If you are an old school programmer, you are good with PHP, you can obviously learn Laravel and you can use it. And Laravel is nowadays getting very popular. Okay. Apart from this, there is one more backend framework that I would like to highlight here. It is called ASP.NET. Although not being used, kind of legacy now, but still it has some popularity in last decade for developing backend applications, right? And by the way, if you just want to see which backend framework is currently popular among the market, you can always check that using Google Trends, and you can see what the trend is, how much a particular framework is being currently used in the market. Okay. Fine. So after developing the front end part as well as the back end part of any application, the next thing comes database design. So what database actually mean? Database is you can consider it as a repository which contains some data which is usually organized in some format. It could be a structured format or it could be um, uh, uh, unstructured format, which is often called as non-relational databases. So database design provides you this mechanism of performing easy addition, retrieval, updation, and deletion of relevant and some valuable information for that particular company or for that particular product. And being a database designer, it is your job to produce accurate physical as well as logical models that can be processed through a software called database management system. Some of the popular database management system platforms that are often being used are MySQL, which is open source, Oracle RDBMS, Amazon RDS, MySQL Server given by Microsoft, Postgres, and many, many more. The next thing after database designing comes version control. And I feel as a student, I think learning version control is one of the most important thing that you can do. Even if your career path would not go into software development directly, but you should learn version control. What version control actually means, it is a process or a practice of tracking and managing changes in the source code. So let's say you are working for a company and you have been assigned a team. So as a team, you are going to create you're going to work on a project, and for that to handle the continuous integration of the code, you are going to put up the updated code on somewhere, some repository, some remote repository online. There are certain platforms that are available to do that, like GitHub is one of the popular platform to share the code among team members. And then whenever you make any changes or whenever you update the current code, the current version of that code, it won't affect the other components or other modules of that code, so that the complete team can work flawlessly. Okay. And the biggest I would say advantage of using a version control system in your organization is that it actually helps you to solve bugs and issues that can be generated in code, and it prevents concurrent modification because of its version control system, which again may lead to inconsistency or bugs. Okay, so do learn version control. Some of the platforms for learning this version control is Git, and Git based platforms are GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab. Okay, there is one more called SVN Tortoise, which is again a version control system. But more or less, most of the companies, you can assume, are using Git version control. After version control, the next very popular term that is gaining popularity in last 2-3 years is system design. And in fact, a lot of startups have now been immersed in this topic. This is the importance of having knowledge of how to create a very you can say scalable and sustainable system design. So what system design actually means, it is simply a process of defining the elements of a system, of the product that you are developing. By elements, I mean to say the modules that you are going to introduce, the architecture, what kind of architecture you are going to develop, whether it would be a monolith or a microservice, the components that would be there inside that application, the interfaces where the user can interact with the system, how that interface would look like, and the data, what kind of data it would be, whether it would be, whether the data is a relational or a non-relational database. Okay, and all of this is being designed based on the specific requirements that have been put up by the client. So there is a systematic approach to designing a system, which includes, first you have to analyze the problem thoroughly. Then you have to identify the core components. For example, let's say you are developing a vaccination delivery application for some organization. So what could be the core components of that application would be? There would be a user interface, right? There would be a location service, which will, or a map service, which will give you the location of vaccination centers to the user, right? There, and obviously there would be a database where you are going to store the information of all the users who are being vaccinated, right? So you have to identify those core components, and then you have to segregate the functional as well as non-functional requirements. By functional, I mean to say the core components only. By non-functional, you can assume that these are qualitative components that enhances the business requirement of your application. Fine, and all of this will lead you to develop a compatible system design for the application, right? And after that, there is one more term called CI/CD, or continuous integration and continuous deployment, or continuous delivery. Now, this term is usually being or this kind of process is usually being managed by the DevOps team of any organization. What it actually means a process of delivering applications to the customer by using some automation services so that the delivery would be faster. Okay, and this CI/CD introduce ongoing automation and continuous monitoring throughout the life cycle of an application. So you must have heard about agile software methodology. This continuous integration and continuous deployment is a part of that agile methodology. So usually what happens in companies, whenever they have a strict deadline and they want to deliver the product as fast as possible, they usually hire this DevOps team which deals with this CI/CD task, and they basically the developer, they directly hand the website to these DevOps engineers, and these DevOps engineers perform some test cases, and they check whether all the modules are working properly or not, and they will directly take it or maybe to the production stage, and they can directly deliver to the client. Okay, so the usual process of doing this continuous integration and continuous delivery is like, first you build the app, the code that you have developed, you merge it, and you test all the functional components. If everything is fine, then you will release it to a repository. The repository could be on GitHub, or it could be on GitLab, or any other version control platform. And then finally, you deploy it to the production level so that it will be available to the client. Okay. Fine. So now, if all the components of full stack development, all the technologies that are being involved there, if that is clear, the next thing comes, okay, what is the roadmap of becoming a full stack developer? So here is the roadmap that I have found on internet. Actually, I tried to make it on my own, but then I found this very extensive roadmap which is given on GitHub, and it is made by this guy Kamran Ahmed. I would like to thank him for that. And basically, if you want to be a full stack developer, doesn't matter in terms of web development or in terms of mobile application development, you have two choices: either go with the front end part or back end part. And from the backend part, some of the developers, they try to switch to the DevOps team. Okay, so I have this entire detailed roadmap for you, and I would like to explain it to you so that you may get an idea of what exactly you need to follow. So in case if you want to be a front end developer, then this is the roadmap that you need to take basically go around. So first thing is, if you are starting with the front end development, you should know the basics of internet, how internet works, what are all the protocols that are being used, especially the HTTP protocol. Okay, how the request and response model actually works. This thing should be clear to you. And then you can directly jump over to the languages or to the technologies that are being used in front end development. The very popular one is, of course, HTML. In order to design your basic static web pages, you should be well versed with HTML. Then there comes CSS, which gives some design part to your application. It will help you to build or to develop some elegant UI for the web page or for the application that you are designing. So you must learn some basics of CSS. And then, as I said, the mother of front end development, JavaScript. JavaScript is a language which is extensively being used by every website or every application that you see nowadays. Okay, so it is very important. And in case if you are going through this front end development path, then you must learn JavaScript. Some of the topics or some of the things that you need to learn around with JavaScript are already mentioned over here. You can go and check them out on the internet. Free resources are available, documentations are available. You can check them through there. Right. After covering all these three, you must know about Git, that is the version control system. You should have a knowledge of it. You can start with version control system initially as well. You just make sure you know how to use GitHub or maybe any other platform like GitLab or Bitbucket, right? And then the next thing comes, in case if you are very much into UI UX of any website, if you're into the designing part, you can learn some of the frameworks, CSS frameworks that can help you to develop these elegant designs very fast. So one very famous CSS framework is called Bootstrap. I don't know it is mentioned over here or not. I think it is mentioned over here. Yeah, right, over here. So you can learn Bootstrap or Material UI. UI is also gaining popularity nowadays, and a lot of websites have actually updated their user interface from a simple one to a material one. Okay, and then obviously after that you must learn some of the build tools. So as you learn JavaScript, and as you go forward with any framework of JavaScript like React, Angular, or Vue, you are going to learn something about npm, which is Node Package Manager. Okay, and you can pick any of these frameworks, by the way. Currently the famous one is React.js, that is mentioned over here, but you can go with Angular as well. Apart from that, you should know some of the design patterns that are there. What is progressive web application? What is single page application? And all of these concepts, right? And some of the advanced concepts are also there, like RESTful web services, GraphQL web services, which is a new one these days. And what is static site generator, SSG? What is client side generation? All of these concepts that are being used. And if you are into mobile applications, some of the frameworks that are being highlighted here, you can go with. The very famous one is the first one, which is React Native. Then another one which is gaining popularity these days is Flutter. Flutter is based upon Dart, a programming language developed by Google. There is one more called React Native Script and Ionic, which are open source and also fairly being used in the market. Okay, so this is all about your front end development career path. The next one is backend development career path, and I'd like to show you this next, and maybe I'll take you through this backend career path quickly, and then take your questions. So if I talk about backend part, the very first thing is, of course, you must know as a software developer or as a software engineer how internet works. What are different protocols that are there, especially about HTTP. You must know some basics of HTML and JavaScript too. And since you are into backend development, you will work around with server side technology a lot. So you must have an in-depth knowledge about operating systems, different type of operating systems and how they work. You should be aware about different flavors of Linux. Okay. Then there are different languages that will help you out throughout your full stack career. Some of the languages that are highlighted here are Rust, which is fairly new language used for system programming. Go is another, or Golang is another fairly new programming language, which is gaining popularity. Then there is Java, the old one, C Sharp, PHP, JavaScript, Python, all of you know, and Ruby. These are some of the popular languages that are being used in backend development. Okay. Then obviously the knowledge of version control will help you out here as well, because as a team, you need to share your code regularly. You need to update, you need to push some changes, update some changes, make some uh, 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 deployments. So for doing all of that, you must have some knowledge about version control systems, right? And as a backend developer, you are going to work around with databases as well. So database is another part where you are going to learn structured query language if you are working with a relational database, or maybe Mongo if you are working with NoSQL databases. Okay, which is again JSON kind of format that you're going to learn. So depending upon what kind of data you are dealing with, you have to choose any of these two. And if you're going with relational databases, then these are some of the popularly used database management system softwares that you can go ahead with. And if I talk about non SQL databases, which are not relational, then we have MongoDB, which is very popular. We have DynamoDB, Cassandra, and so on, right? And database itself is a very vast topic actually. And in your entire software engineering career path, you are going to learn some different aspects or some different concepts about database, like asset properties, how indexing works. Okay, some advanced data structures that are being used how transactions actually happens, transaction management, and all of that. And as a backend developer, you are going to deal with different type of APIs if you want to establish a communication between third party applications or among different applications altogether. Okay, some of the very popular APIs that are being used are REST and SOAP. SOAP is not very, I would say, popular as of now. It is considered as legacy. It works on XML based systems or XML based files, and REST is gaining more popularity nowadays. Okay, and apart from that, you must understand some basic uh, concept or some basic logic behind how authentication and authorization is being done for any application. So as a backend developer, this is another job role that you are going to deal with. So you must understand different type of authentications that can be done. Authentication through JWTs, token based authentication, or using OAuth. OAuth is again gaining popularity nowadays, and it is very much used. Okay. Apart from that, you should know some of the basic principles of how caching works. What is the importance of using caching at server side and at client side as well? And then you must be aware about different testing terminologies, how you can test your code and how you can lint your code. So testing and linting often come together. Okay, testing code can be done through three or different ways, like integration testing, unit testing, and functional testing, which are commonly being used. And then linting is usually deals with the quality of the code that you have written, whether there is any bug, whether you have written some unnecessary lines of code in your program or in your project. So all of that is dealt with using a linting software. Okay, then obviously the next thing comes is continuous integration and CD. This part is handled by the DevOps team. Okay, but as a backend developer, if you're working on a startup, then maybe it's your job to handle the integration and the deployment part all together by yourself. Okay, so to do that, you must be aware, you must have an understanding of different application architecture, different architectural patterns that are there. What is a monolithic application? In which scenario should I use a monolithic application, and in what scenario should I use a microservice based application or a service oriented architecture, right? And then when you deal around with them, you should gain some knowledge about search engines. You should gain some knowledge about how messaging works among distributed systems. There are different softwares like Kafka, RabbitMQ, which are popularly being used for establishing a very fast communication between two different piece of applications which are interlinked in a complete project. Okay, then there is a concept of containerization as well as virtualization through Docker or Kubernetes and so on. So you must understand how an application can be deployed on these containers and what is the use of it, why they are being used, right? And then these are some of the advanced topics related to graph query language, graph-based databases, web sockets, in case if you are doing any socket programming, about some web servers like Nginx or Apache Tomcat or Jetty and so on. So you must have some knowledge about these web servers, how you can deploy your application to them, and some basic functionality of them. Okay, and this file is actually very good, and it thoroughly specifies what path you can take in order to become a front end or a web back end developer. And if you guys want, I can share the link with you, or I can share the link with the team, and they can share this file with you guys. Okay, fine. So after getting this a good grasp of what the career path would be in case of full stack application development, the next thing obviously comes: what are the different career opportunities that are there? Well, there are tremendous career opportunities in full stack application development, and the job roles could be anywhere from being a full stack developer or a front end or a back end developer, or if in case if you're in DevOps, you would become a DevOps engineer. If you're working specifically for a mobile application, then you would be a mobile application developer. Or in product based companies, there is a job role called software development engineer. uh, uh, that is another profile. And then if you are into architecture part or system design part, then you are going to be known as a software architect. Okay, so these are some of the few job roles that I have indicated over here, highlighted over here. There are many more depending upon the organization that you are working on, right? Okay, so I think I have taken you through a very introductory lesson of what is full stack development and what all technologies you guys have to learn. What is the career path if you choose to become a front end developer or a back end developer that you should take. Fine. So now I would welcome any questions that are from your side, and I would happy to help you out in that. All right, shoot some questions that you guys have. What is the scope of full stack development in India? Okay, which is a better app development, Flutter or React Native? Well, to answer that, uh, I would say Flutter is gaining some popularity since last year. It was a fairly new framework. It was, I think, being launched in 2019, December 2019 or 18 somewhere, and it is gaining popularity. So you can learn it. React Native is there. It will be there. It is rock solid. Its community is rock solid. So in case if you are already dealing with React as the front end part of any web application, then you can go ahead with React Native. But if you are a beginner, you don't have any knowledge of React, then you may choose Flutter for that. Okay, what is the scope of full stack development in India in coming 5 to 10 years? Well, as I said, the future is tech driven. It is digital, and since India being a vast country, we need services to be very fast. And in order to do that, we need more innovations, more startups, right? We need more ideas, and those ideas are going to be turned into applications. And who is going to make those applications? You guys, full stack developers. So I think the future is bright. Is there any scope of .NET? It is being used currently as well in many organizations. I would not say it is obsolete. Okay, but the job roles are fairly less when compared with the niche technologies that I talked about, like React, Angular, and for backend like Spring or maybe Express or Node.js, like that. With the upcoming pace of automation, web pages and applications are created with a drag and drop. Yes, is it still beneficial learning these technologies for development? Well, absolutely right. See, drag and drop would work for designing UIs. Okay, and in case if you want to customize that UI as per your theme or as per your idea, again you need developers to do that. And if I talk about the backend part, then I don't think this drag and drop would work there, because there is a lot of logic that is happening, a lot of basically uh, coding that is going to be happen, a very a high level of coding in-depth knowledge you should need in order to develop a very scalable and robust backend for any application, for any large application. So I don't think these drag and drops would work there. Maybe for small companies or small application, up to a certain extent they can work. Okay, any other question, anyone? Any other question, or shall I wind up now? All right. So thank you so much, guys, for inviting me. Your this IEEE NCU TEM Society. I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to discuss with you guys about this full stack uh, development, and we at the NorthCap University are actually providing this in as one of our specialization. And uh, yeah,
I would
so
like
in case if you have any doubts in the future, you can contact me anytime. You can just take my contact information from the team. Okay, I'd be happy to help you guys anytime. Thank you so
I would
much.
I would like to thank Sumit sir for such a great session. We are grateful for your time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences with us, and we appreciate the enthusiasm shown by our participants for being with us today. And it's been a great pleasure with everyone. Thank you.